My name is Tracy Cooper, and at 11 years old, I learned that hunger wasn't just a feeling, it was something you had to survive. That summer, my parents announced they were leaving for Europe for an entire month. London, Venice, Mykonos. Like it was just another casual plan. Before they left, my mom placed two $10 bills and a credit card on the kitchen counter. She told me it was only for emergencies. Then they grabbed their suitcases and walked out the door without even turning back. What I didn't know was that the credit card had never been activated. And I definitely didn't know that 30 days later, when they came back and hosted a party to show off their trip to dozens of guests, the police would walk straight into our living room. Before we go any further, take a moment to subscribe, but only if this story truly speaks to you. I'd also love to know where you're listening from and what the temperature is like there right now. It always amazes me how far these stories can travel. And just so you know, this is a fictional story. Some elements have been enhanced with the help of AI to make it more vivid and emotionally engaging. Still, I hope it feels real enough to stay with you long after it ends. Now, let me tell you how it all began. From the moment the front door clicked shut behind them, the house felt too big, too quiet. We lived in a 2-story home in a quiet suburb outside Seattle. The lawn was always perfectly trimmed, the windows spotless, the driveway holding 2 cars like a picture from a catalog. My mom, Angela Cooper, drove a silver Lexus. My dad, Michael Cooper, had a dark blue sedan. Everything looked like it belonged in a perfect life. And online, it did. My mom had thousands of followers on Instagram. She posted constantly family dinners, holiday decorations, smiling photos with soft lighting and perfect angles. So grateful for my beautiful life. She would write, "Blessed beyond words." But if you looked closely, something was missing. Me. I was rarely in those photos. And when I was always in the background, half cut off, not the focus. My dad worked long hours at a financial firm. He left early, came home late, ate dinner, watched TV, and went to bed. He wasn't cruel, just distant. When my mom spoke, he listened. When she decided something, he agreed. I learned early not to expect anything different. By 8, I was making my own breakfast, walking to school alone, signing my own forms when my mom forgot. Whenever guests came over, my mom would laugh lightly and say, "Tracy is very independent. She doesn't need much attention." Then she'd glance at me. "You like being alone?" "Right, sweetheart." She never waited for an answer. I always nodded anyway, because if I didn't, she would sigh like I had just made everything harder. Being invisible felt normal. I thought all kids lived like that, quiet, careful, trying not to be a problem, trying to be good enough to be noticed. But I never thought they would actually leave me. 2 weeks before the trip, my mom called me downstairs. She sat on the couch, laptop open, a flight booking page glowing on the screen. My dad stood near the window, staring outside, silent. "Tracy," she said, her voice light, like she was talking about dinner. "Your father and I are taking a break." I froze. "A month in Europe." She continued. "London, Venice, Greece. You're 11 now, old enough to stay home." I blinked. "Who will stay with me?" She didn't even look up. "You'll be fine on your own." "What's so hard about that?" "For a whole month." Her tone changed instantly. "Don't be dramatic. You know how to take care of yourself. I've taught you everything." I looked at my dad. He didn't turn around. "Can Grandma come?" I asked quietly. "Or Aunt Melissa?" "Your grandmother is busy," my mom said sharply. Then her lips pressed together. And Melissa is not welcome here. You know that. I didn't know why. I only knew my aunt hadn't been allowed near us for years. My mom stood up, reached into her purse, and pulled out two $10 bills and a silver card. She placed them in front of me. $20 for snacks. She said, "And this card is for emergencies." She finally looked at me, her eyes cold. "Do not use it unless something serious happens. Like the house being on fire. Do you understand?" I nodded. "Good." She turned back to her laptop. "We leave Monday. We'll be back in 1 month." I picked up the money and the card and went upstairs. I didn't know the card didn't work. Monday morning came too fast. I stood at the door and watched them leave. My mom wore a summer dress, her hair perfectly styled, pulling a designer suitcase. My dad carried the bags out to the car waiting at the curb. "Lock the doors," my mom said without turning around. "And don't bother anyone. You're old enough now." They got in. The car drove away. I stood there for a long time, staring at the empty street, waiting for them to come back and say it was all a mistake. They didn't. That night, the silence pressed in on me. I could hear everything: the refrigerator humming, the clock ticking, the wind brushing against the windows. I lay awake until almost 3 in the morning, the next day. I opened the refrigerator. It was nearly empty. Half a carton of milk, 4 eggs, a loaf of bread already expired, a few jars of sauce. No real food. I placed the two $10 bills on the table and stared at them. $20. That was all I had. I sat at the table and did the math. $20 for 30 days. That was less than $1 a day. 66 cents if I stretched it perfectly. I told myself I could make it work. If I ate less, if I didn't get too hungry. I picked up the card my mom had left and tried ordering a pizza online. I entered the numbers carefully and pressed confirm. Declined. I tried again. Declined. My hand started to shake. I flipped the card over and called the number on the back. Following the automated prompts, "This card is not activated. Please contact your bank for assistance." I didn't say anything. I just stared at the phone. Then at the two $10 bills on the table. That was everything I had. And my parents were somewhere in Europe. On the 3rd day. I walked to the grocery store down the street. I stood in the aisle for a long time, counting every cent in my head. Ramen noodles were 79 cents. White bread was a little over $1. Peanut butter was too expensive. I picked up 6 packs of ramen and 1 loaf of bread and went to the register. The cashier looked at me. "Shopping alone." "Sweetie, my mom's in the car," I said quickly. She hesitated, then nodded. "Back home." I lined everything up on the counter and started planning. 1 pack of ramen could be split into 2 meals. Half for breakfast, half for dinner. It would be enough. It had to be. By day 5. The hunger felt different. Not sharp anymore. Just constant. I called my mom. 3 rings. 4. 5. She answered. "Hello." Her voice was distant. I could hear music in the background. "Mom," I said. "The car doesn't work. I don't have enough money for food." She sighed. "Tracy, you're being dramatic again. I only have $20. You can eat less." She cut me off. "I'm at dinner right now. Stop calling." "But Mom." The line went dead. I stared at the phone for a few seconds, then set it down. I slid onto the kitchen floor, leaning against the refrigerator, and cried quietly. That night, I opened her Instagram. A new post. She was standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, smiling, holding a glass of champagne. The caption said, "Paris nights, living my best life." There were comments everywhere. So beautiful. You deserve this. Goals. I stared at the photo for a long time. Then I grabbed the old iPad she had given me, the one she didn't need anymore. I opened the camera and pressed record. Today is day 5, I said softly. My voice trembled. My mom is eating at a restaurant. I ate half a pack of ramen. I didn't know why I was recording. It just felt important. If you think my parents were right to leave their 11-year-old child alone just so they could enjoy their trip and live their best life, then comment, I choose the trip. But if you felt the emptiness, the hunger, and the loneliness I went through, then just comment, poor child. Sometimes the hardest part isn't being alone, it's realizing you were never truly chosen. On day 7, someone knocked on the door. I hesitated, then opened it. Mr. Thomas Green stood there. He lived next door. He was older, maybe in his 70s, and lived alone. Hey there, he said, looking at me carefully. I haven't seen your parents' cars in a few days. Everything okay? Yes, sir, I said. They're on a trip. A trip, he asked. Who's staying with you? I'm fine, I said. But my voice shook. He was quiet for a moment. Have you eaten today? He asked gently. I nodded. He smiled slightly. Well, I made too much dinner. You want to come over? I knew he was lying. But I followed him anyway. That evening, I sat at his kitchen table and ate spaghetti. It felt like the best meal I'd ever had. He didn't say anything while I ate. He just watched quietly. After dinner, he asked, Where are your parents, really? Tracy. And this time, I told the truth. Everything. The trip. The money. The card that didn't work. He stayed silent for a long moment. Do you want me to call someone? He asked. The police. A relative. No, I said quickly. Please don't. My mom said if I bother anyone. I stopped. He nodded slowly. All right, he said. I won't call anyone. Then he looked at me. But I will bring you food. Every day. I didn't argue. And Tracy, he added, if something like this is happening, you should write it down. Or record it. Evidence matters. I thought about the video on my iPad. For the next 10 days. He kept his promise. And for 10 days. I stayed quiet too. By the second week, summer school started. My mom had signed me up months earlier, not because she cared about my education, but because she didn't want me sitting at home where people might start asking questions. Now I understood. She needed me somewhere visible, so no one would notice I was actually alone. On the first day, I arrived late. My clothes were wrinkled because I didn't know how to use the washing machine properly. My hair was tangled, uneven, like I had tried to fix it myself and failed. I hadn't slept much in days, and the dark circles under my eyes felt impossible to hide. Mrs. Carter, my homeroom teacher, looked at me the moment I walked in. Tracy, are you feeling all right? She asked gently. Yes, ma'am, I said. She didn't press further, but I could feel her watching me throughout the entire class. By the third day, everything started to fall apart. I was sitting in math when the room suddenly felt too bright. The numbers on the board blurred together. My ears rang softly, like something was breaking inside my head. I gripped the edge of my desk, trying to stay upright. But my legs felt weak. Tracy, Mrs. Carter's voice sounded far away. Then everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on a bed in the nurse's office. The school nurse was standing beside me, her face tight with concern. Did you eat breakfast this morning? She asked. Yes, I said quietly. Half a pack of ramen. 6 hours ago, I nodded. She helped me sit up and guided me onto a scale. Then she looked down at the number and frowned. "You've lost nearly 10 pounds in 2 weeks," she said slowly. "Where are your parents?" I didn't answer. Her voice softened. "Tracy, who's taking care of you?" I looked down at my hands. They looked thinner than I remembered. Paler. "No one," I whispered. The nurse and Mrs. Carter exchanged a glance. Mrs. Carter pulled a chair closer and sat beside me. Her voice was calm, but there was something serious underneath it. "You don't have to explain everything right now," she said. "But I need you to know. I'm not going to ignore what I'm seeing." I didn't cry. I didn't feel like I could. But for the first time since my parents left, I felt like someone actually noticed me. That night, my phone rang while I was sitting at the kitchen table eating rice Mr. Green had brought over. An international number. I answered. "Tracy." My mom's voice cut through the line. "I heard the school called. What did you tell them?" I didn't stop talking. She snapped. "I'm in Santorini having dinner with your father, and now I have to deal with calls about your health concerns. Do you know how embarrassing that is?" I swallowed, the rice sticking in my throat. "Mom, I'm hungry." "You're being dramatic again," she said sharply. "You have $20. You have food in the house. You have everything. The card doesn't work." I said. "Then don't use it. I told you. Emergencies only." "Is the house on fire?" I didn't answer. Her voice dropped. Colder than before. "Listen carefully. If you tell anyone anything, your school, your neighbors, anyone, I will send you to boarding school when I get back. You won't live here anymore. You won't see anyone you know. Do you understand silence, Tracy? Do you understand yes?" I whispered. "Good." I heard my dad's voice faintly in the background, but he didn't take the phone. He didn't ask if I was okay. "Don't call me again," she said. "I'm trying to relax." The line went dead. I set the phone down slowly. My hands were shaking. I opened her Instagram again. A new photo. My mom and dad standing in front of a sunset in Santorini, smiling like nothing in the world was wrong. The caption read, "Perfect evening with my love." I stared at it for a moment, then reached for the iPad. I pressed record. "Mom just called," I said. My voice didn't shake this time. It felt empty. "She said she'll send me away if I tell anyone the truth." I looked straight into the camera. "I'm not being dramatic. I'm starving. And she doesn't care." That night, something changed. If no one believed me, I would make sure they had no choice. Starting on day 18, I recorded everything, every morning. I picked up the iPad and filmed. I opened the refrigerator, showing exactly what was left: 2 eggs, half a loaf of bread, no milk. I stepped onto the scale and recorded the number. 84 pounds. Lower than before. I took screenshots of my mom's messages. "Stop bothering me." Then I read them out loud to the camera. Because if I stayed silent, no one would ever know what was really happening. I kept recording every day, reading my mom's messages out loud to the camera so nothing could be denied later. I also started writing everything down in a notebook. Each page had a date, what I ate, and how I felt. It made things feel real. Day 19. I wrote that I ate 1 egg and half a pack of ramen. That same day, my mom posted a photo eating oysters in Monaco. The caption said, "Living the dream." People commented things like, "You deserve this," and "So beautiful." In my notebook, I wrote, "I'm living a nightmare." Day 20. My stomach hurt all day. There was almost no food left. "Mr. Thomas Green brought me a sandwich. I ate slowly, trying to make it last. I didn't know how to thank him. Day 21. The school emailed my mom again. She didn't respond. That evening, Mr. Green watched me carefully while I sat in his kitchen. "You have to let me help," he said quietly. "I can't stay silent forever." "You promised," I said weakly. "I know," he replied. "But you're not okay." "Tracy." I didn't argue. I didn't have the energy. "I'm going to call your school," he said. "I won't give details. Just that someone needs to check on you." I hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, but don't tell them your name." The next morning, an anonymous call was made. Mrs. Carter received it. A concerned neighbor reported that Tracy Cooper might not be safe. She looked at the notes she had been keeping about me. My appearance, my weight loss, everything she had noticed. She already knew something was wrong. Now she couldn't ignore it anymore. Later that day, I received an email from the school. "We need to speak with your parents. If we cannot reach them within 48 hours, we will notify the authorities." I stared at the message before closing it. The principal called my mom. I didn't hear it, but I later learned what happened. "Mrs. Cooper, this is Principal Harris from Ridgewood Academy." My mom's voice changed instantly, soft and concerned. "Oh my goodness. Is Tracy okay? We're concerned about her health," he said. "She appears malnourished." My mom laughed lightly. "Tracy exaggerates. She has a vivid imagination." There was a pause. "She has a babysitter," my mom added. "Mrs. Collins. She comes every day. Can you give us her contact information?" Another pause. "Of course," my mom said. "I'll send it." She never did. The school waited. No number came. No babysitter existed. At the same time, the nurse filed a report. "Tracy Cooper, 11 years old, rapid weight loss, signs of malnutrition, parents unreachable, investigation recommended." The report was sent to Child Protective Services. A case was opened. A caseworker was assigned. Her name was Karen Brooks. That night, I received an email from my mom. There was no subject, just one paragraph. "Tracy, I know the school contacted me. If you say anything, I will tell them you are lying. I will say you need psychiatric help. No one will believe you. Do you understand?" I read it 3 times. Then I picked up the iPad and pressed record. "Today is day 22, I said calmly. My mom just threatened to say I'm mentally ill if I tell the truth. I read the email out loud. Every word. "This is evidence," I said. "I'm not lying. I won't stay silent. If you're wondering why I didn't ask for help earlier, it's because I believed I shouldn't. I thought being quiet made me a good daughter. I thought if I tried hard enough, they would care. It took weeks of hunger to understand they wouldn't." That morning, someone knocked on the door. I opened it slowly. A woman stood there, calm and serious. "Hi, Tracy," she said. "My name is Karen Brooks from Child Protective Services. May I come in?" I hesitated, hearing my mom's voice in my head, but I was too tired to be afraid anymore. I stepped aside. "Okay," I said quietly. Karen walked inside, looking around the house in silence. The house felt heavy with silence as Karen stepped further inside, taking everything in without saying much. "Your parents are in Europe?" she asked gently. "Yes, ma'am," I said. "For a month. They'll be back in 8 days. And who has been taking care of you?" I looked down at the floor. No one. Karen didn't react the way I expected. She didn't gasp or raise her voice. She simply nodded slightly and wrote something down in a small notebook she had taken out. "Can I see the kitchen?" "Tracy," she asked. I led her there. She opened the refrigerator. It was almost empty. A few bottles of sauce. A half loaf of bread that Mr. Green had brought. Nothing else. She glanced at the trash can. Empty ramen wrappers. Then she looked at me. I knew what she saw. My pale skin, the dark circles under my eyes, the way my clothes hung looser than before. "Tracy," she said softly, "is there anything you want to show me?" I hesitated for a second. Then I turned and went upstairs. Coming back with the iPad. "I've been recording," I said quietly. "Every day, in case no one believed me." Karen took it carefully and pressed play. On the screen, I saw myself standing in front of the refrigerator, saying the date out loud, my voice shaky. When the video ended, Karen looked at me differently, not with pity, with something else. Respect. "You're very brave," she said. "These videos matter." Then she asked me something no one had ever asked before. "Tracy, do you want to be safe?" I didn't even have to think. "Yes," I said. The next day, Karen called my mom. I wasn't there for the call, but she told me everything afterward. "Mrs. Cooper, this is Karen Brooks from Child Protective Services." My mom's voice changed immediately. Calm, warm, perfect. "Oh my goodness. Is Tracy okay? What happened?" "We've received reports of possible neglect," Karen said. "Your daughter has been alone for over 3 weeks." "Alone?" My mom laughed lightly. "No, there must be a misunderstanding. Tracy has a babysitter. Mrs. Collins. She checks on her every day." "I see," Karen said. "Could you provide her contact information?" There was a pause. "Of course," my mom replied. "I'll send it right away." She never did. Karen checked everything. There was no Mrs. Collins, no record of anyone visiting the house. No one in the neighborhood had seen a babysitter, because she didn't exist. Karen then filed a legal request for my mom's credit card statements. 3 days later, the records came in. She sat me down at the table and showed me the pages. Numbers, dates, transactions. "Tracy," she said carefully, "your parents spent over $47,000 during this trip." I stared at the paper. Hotels, restaurants, shopping. "The card they gave you," Karen continued, "was never activated. It couldn't be used at all." I had already known that, but seeing it written down, official and undeniable, made it feel different. "They spent nearly $50,000, Karen said quietly, "and left you with 20. Something inside me broke. I didn't cry. I didn't know how anymore. "What happens now?" I asked. Karen closed the folder. "Now," she said, "we make sure you're safe, and when your parents return, there will be consequences." That night, I stayed at Mr. Green's house. Karen had arranged it while the investigation continued. For the first time in weeks, I felt full, safe, but it didn't last. My phone rang, an international number. My stomach dropped as I answered. "Hello, Tracy." My mom's voice was cold. "What did you tell them?" "You understand what you've done?" My mom's voice wasn't loud anymore. That made it worse. "You're destroying this family," she continued. "Everything I've built, our reputation, our life. For what?" "Because you couldn't handle being alone for a few weeks. I was starving." "Mom," I said. "You were fine." She snapped. "I gave you money. I gave you a card. I gave you everything." I gripped the phone tighter. "The card didn't work," I said quietly. "You knew it didn't work." There was silence. Then her voice dropped, colder than I had ever heard it. "Listen to me carefully. Tracy, when I get back, you're going to tell them you exaggerated. You're going to say you wanted attention. You're going to fix this. Something inside me shifted. Something that had been bending for 11 years finally stopped. No. There was a pause. Excuse me. No. I repeated, my voice steady. I'm not lying for you. Another silence. Longer this time. I have videos. I said, everything. The empty refrigerator. My weight dropping. Your emails. All of it. What videos? She asked sharply. I recorded every day. The food I didn't have. The scale. Your Instagram posts while I was eating half a pack of ramen. Her breath caught. You're lying. I'm not, I said, and I'm done protecting you. She hung up. I sat there in Mr. Green's kitchen, my hands trembling. But not from fear anymore. 3 days later, my mom posted on Facebook, coming home to my baby girl. Can't wait to throw a party and share our amazing trip with everyone. Dozens of people responded. 40 guests confirmed they would be there. I stared at the post for a long time. I knew that party would be where everything ended. The day before, my parents returned. Karen came to Mr. Green's house. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, a folder in her hands. Her expression was serious, but still kind. Tracy, I want you to understand what's going to happen, she said. I nodded, holding a glass of water that I hadn't touched. We have enough evidence, she continued. The videos you recorded, the medical reports from your school, the financial records, your mother's emails. She paused for a moment. When your parents return, there will be legal action? Legal action, I repeated. They will be charged with child endangerment. She said gently, it's a felony. My throat tightened. Will they go to jail? I asked. That depends, Karen replied. But they will be arrested and processed. She hesitated before continuing. And Tracy, you won't be going back to live with them. Not right now. I waited for something to hit me. Relief, fear, anger. But there was nothing. Just emptiness. When I asked, tomorrow, she said, when they get home. She looked at me carefully. Your mother is planning a party. We're going to execute the warrant there. I swallowed. At the party. Yes, she said, not to humiliate them, but because we know they'll be home, and there will be witnesses. She paused, then added softly, sometimes the truth needs to be seen. That night, I couldn't sleep. My parents were probably at the airport, complaining about delays, talking about their trip, planning what they would say to their guests. They had no idea what was waiting for them. I stood by the window in Mr. Green's house, looking out at the quiet street. Everything looked normal, but I knew it wouldn't stay that way. The next day, the sky was clear and bright. Cars started arriving around 5 in the afternoon. From the window, I watched them pull up one after another. Neighbors, my mom's co-workers, friends who had liked her photos and believed in her perfect life. Inside the house, I could see decorations, balloons, a banner that said, "Welcome home." A slideshow played on the television, photos from Europe, smiling faces, expensive dinners, beautiful places. My mom stood in the center of it all, wearing a new dress, her hair perfectly styled, her smile flawless. She moved through the room like nothing had ever been wrong, like I had never been left behind, like the truth wasn't already on its way. Angela, you look incredible. Tell us everything about the trip. We missed you so much. I watched from Mr. Green's window as my mom moved through the crowd, hugging people, laughing, pointing toward the slideshow playing behind her. The Eiffel Tower, Venice canals, sunsets over Santorini. Every image looked perfect. Every smile carefully practiced. One of the guests asked her something. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read her lips. Tracy O. She's resting upstairs. You know how kids are. She didn't know I wasn't upstairs. She didn't know I wasn't even in the house. The slideshow shifted again. My parents clinking glasses in Monaco. My mom holding shopping bags in Milan. My dad smiling on a yacht. Not a single picture of me. Mr. Green sat beside me quietly. You okay, kiddo? He asked. I don't know. I answered honestly. Then I saw it. A dark sedan pulled up near the corner of the street. No markings. No lights. Karen stepped out first. Another car followed behind it, and 2 uniformed officers got out. Mr. Green placed a hand gently on my shoulder. Inside the house. The slideshow ended. My mom raised her glass, ready to give a toast. The doorbell rang. She walked over, smiling, expecting another guest. The moment she opened the door, her smile froze. Karen Brooks stood there, holding a folder. Behind her were 2 officers in full uniform, Officer Ramirez and Officer Cole. Mrs. Cooper. Karen said calmly, I'm Karen Brooks from Child Protective Services. These officers are here with me. We need to speak with you. My mom's face shifted in seconds. Confusion, recognition, then anger. She forced a tight smile. I'm sorry. This isn't a good time. I'm hosting a party. Ma'am, this concerns the safety of your daughter. The room behind her had gone quiet. Conversation stopped. 40 people turned toward the door. The slideshow restarted, images of Europe flickering across the screen behind them. My mom tried to step outside, lowering her voice. Maybe we can discuss this privately. One of the officers stepped forward. Mrs. Cooper, we have a warrant. You and your husband are being charged with child endangerment. The words seemed to freeze the air. Someone gasped. Glasses stopped clinking. That's ridiculous, my mom said, her voice tight but still trying to hold together. There's been a misunderstanding. Tracy is fine. She's upstairs right now. Ma'am, Karen said, stepping forward slightly. Tracy is not upstairs. She has been in protective care for several days. My mom's smile cracked completely. What your daughter was found alone and malnourished. Karen continued. She documented everything. She lifted the folder slightly. We have video evidence, medical reports, and financial records obtained legally. The room was silent now. 40 people stood frozen, watching the same woman who had just been showing them vacation photos now being confronted with the truth. My mom turned back to the guests, her composure breaking. This is a misunderstanding, she said quickly. Her laugh sounded sharp, unnatural. Tracy has always had a vivid imagination. She exaggerates things. She had a babysitter. She added, someone was there with her. Karen's voice cut through her words. We've verified that claim. She said, there was no babysitter. No one came to that house for 30 days. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything I had ever known. That's not true, my mom started. But her voice didn't carry the same confidence anymore. Karen opened the folder in her hands and began speaking calmly. Each word precise. We also obtained your credit card statements through a legal subpoena, she said. During your trip, you spent over $47,000. 5-star hotels, fine dining, luxury shopping. She looked up. The card you left for Tracy was never activated. She had no access to any of those funds. You left an 11-year-old with $20 for an entire month. A wave of murmurs spread through the room. My dad, Michael, stood near the television, completely still. His face had gone pale. He hadn't said a single word since the police arrived. Michael, one of his coworkers said, stepping closer. Is this true? My dad opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Then someone else stepped forward. Mrs. Carter. My teacher. I'm Tracy's teacher, she said, her voice steady but firm. I was the one who filed the report. I saw her come to school hungry, exhausted, wearing the same clothes for days. She paused, looking directly at my mom. This isn't an exaggeration. This is what happened. My mom turned toward her sharply. You did this. Mrs. Carter didn't flinch. No, she said quietly. You did. The room fell completely silent. One of the officers stepped forward, pulling out handcuffs. You have the right to remain silent, he began. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. My mom's knees seemed to give out slightly. No. Wait, she said, her voice shaking now. This can't be happening. Karen turned toward the officer and nodded once. Play it. The television screen flickered. The slideshow of Europe disappeared. Then a video appeared. My video. My face filled the screen. Today is day 15, my voice said. Thin and tired. There's 1 egg left in expired milk. I have $3. The camera turned toward the refrigerator. Empty shelves. A single egg. My mom is in Monaco. I continued. She's eating at a restaurant that costs hundreds of dollars. My voice cracked. I ate half a pack of ramen. It was the last one. Someone in the room covered their mouth. The video changed. Another day. I was reading one of my mom's messages out loud. Stop being dramatic. You have everything you need. My voice sounded hollow. She wrote this while I was so hungry I felt dizzy. Another video. Day 22. I read the email where she threatened to tell people I was mentally ill if I told the truth. From Mr. Green's window. I couldn't hear the sound clearly, but I could see the faces inside the room. Shock, disbelief, disgust. Turn it off, my mom screamed. She's lying. Karen's voice cut through the chaos. These videos are time-stamped. They match the medical reports and the financial records. This is evidence. Mrs. Carter stepped forward again. I saw her. She said, the weight loss, the exhaustion, everything you're seeing is real. My mom looked around the room wildly, at her coworkers, her neighbors, her friends. No one met her eyes. Even my dad had stepped back, putting distance between himself and her. For the first time, she was completely alone. I watched her face change. Denial, then anger, then something I had never seen before. Fear. She looked at the screen, where my video was still playing, then at the crowd, then at the officers standing in front of her. No, she whispered, then louder. No, this can't be happening, but it was. My dad finally spoke, his voice unsteady. Angela, maybe we should just… She turned on him immediately. This is your fault, she shouted. You never paid attention to her. You never my fault, he snapped, his voice breaking. This trip was your idea. You said she'd be fine. She is fine, my mom yelled. She's 11, he said. She's supposed to what? The voice came from the back of the room. An older woman stepped forward. Mrs. Daniels, one of my mom's longtime friends. To what? Angela, she said, her voice cold. Starve. Survive on $20 while you were traveling the world. She shook her head slowly. I thought I knew you. My mom opened her mouth, but no words came out. For the first time in her life, she had nothing left to say. The officer stepped forward again. Ma'am. Sir. You need to come with us. My mom looked around one last time, searching for someone to defend her. Anyone. But no one moved. No one spoke. No one saved her. They led my parents out of the house in handcuffs, not dragging them, not forcing them, just walking them out. And the entire room watched in silence as the truth followed them out the door. They didn't resist. They didn't scream or fight. They just walked. My mom's face looked empty, like she had left herself somewhere back in the living room. My dad kept his head down, unable to look at anyone. The guests moved aside to let them pass. No one said goodbye. No one stepped forward. No one tried to defend them. Outside, neighbors had already begun gathering. Word spreads fast in neighborhoods like ours. Mrs. Nguyen from across the street stood on her porch. The Harris family from the corner. Even the couple with the golden retriever who used to wave at me every morning. They all watched in silence as my parents were led to the police car. From Mr. Green's window, I saw my mom pause for just a second before getting in. She looked up at the house, at the banner that still read, "Welcome home," at everything she was about to lose. Then the officer guided her head down, and she disappeared into the back seat. The car pulled away slowly. I stood there, watching until the red lights vanished at the end of the street. Mr. Green stood beside me. He didn't say anything. He just placed a hand gently on my shoulder. Back at the house. The party had ended. Guests left quickly, quietly, avoiding eye contact with each other. No one wanted to be connected to what they had just witnessed. Inside, the champagne glasses sat untouched. The music had stopped. The slideshow had gone dark. The banner moved slightly in the breeze coming through the open door. A few minutes later, Karen appeared at Mr. Green's house. She knocked softly before stepping inside. "How are you feeling?" "Tracy," she asked. I thought about it for a moment. "I can breathe," I said finally. "For the first time in a month, I can actually breathe." Karen nodded. "That's a start." Outside, the streetlights flickered on. The police cars were gone. The neighbors slowly returned to their homes, and I was still there. If you're wondering whether I regretted it, the answer is no. I didn't destroy my family. My mother had done that long before I said anything. I just stopped protecting her. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt like you weren't allowed to speak up, you are. You always were. The day after the arrest, something unexpected happened. I was sitting at Mr. Green's kitchen table, eating scrambled eggs with toast. Real food. Warm food. There was a knock at the door. Mr. Green went to answer it. A woman stood outside. She looked to be in her mid-30s. Brown hair. Similar to my mom's, but softer. Her eyes looked tired, but kind. She wore simple clothes. Nothing expensive. Nothing perfect. "I'm looking for Tracy," she said. "I'm her aunt, Melissa Carter." I froze. Aunt Melissa, the one my mom never talked about, the one whose name always made her angry. Mr. Green looked back at me. I nodded slowly. She stepped inside. The moment she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered. She walked toward me and wrapped her arms around me tightly. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't come sooner." I stood stiff for a second. I wasn't used to being hugged. Then something inside me broke, and I hugged her back. "How did you know?" I asked quietly. "Your teacher called me," she said. She found my number in an old emergency contact file. She pulled back and looked at me carefully. I came as fast as I could. We sat down at the table. She held my hands while she spoke. "Your mom and I stopped talking 5 years ago," she said. "Do you know why I shook my head? Because I told her the truth," she said. "I told her she cared more about how things looked than how you actually felt." Her voice softened. She didn't want to hear it. So she cut me off. She squeezed my hands gently. What happened to you is not your fault. Tracy, none of it. I looked at her. This person who was supposed to be family but felt like a stranger. You barely know me. I said. Then let me fix that. She replied with a small smile. Because I'm not going anywhere. She took a breath. I've already filed for temporary guardianship. CPS approved it this morning, for the first time in weeks. I felt something new. Hope. The legal system moved quickly after that. My parents were charged with child endangerment, a serious felony. They were released on bail, but under strict conditions. No contact with me, not calls, not messages, not even through a lawyer without approval. The evidence was overwhelming. My video recordings, 22 days of proof, the empty refrigerator, the scale showing my weight dropping, my voice reading my mom's threats out loud. The school's medical report confirmed it. 9 pounds lost in less than 3 weeks. Malnutrition, neglect. Everything was documented. Everything was real. The evidence kept building, piece by piece, until there was nothing left to deny. The medical report confirmed everything. Malnutrition, documented by a licensed nurse. My weight loss. My condition. Every detail written down and verified. The financial records told the other half of the story. Thousands of dollars spent across Europe. Luxury hotels. Expensive restaurants. Designer shopping in Milan. And then there was the card they had left me. No transactions, because it had never been activated. There were also my mom's messages. Stop being dramatic. Don't call me again. I'll tell them you're mentally ill. Their lawyer tried to explain it away, said it was a misunderstanding, that they believed someone had been checking on me. But facts don't bend like that. You can't argue with timestamps. You can't rewrite bank records. You can't explain away a child losing weight while her parents were posting photos from 5-star restaurants. The story spread fast. First local news, then social media. A couple spends tens of thousands on a European vacation while leaving their 11-year-old with $20. People shared it everywhere. Commented, judged, reacted. My mom lost her job within a week. My dad was placed under review. Their names were everywhere. The perfect life they had built disappeared almost overnight. Even her Instagram account was deleted. But it didn't matter. The screenshots were already out there. A week later, my phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. Tracy. Her voice sounded smaller. If you take back what you said, we can fix this. I promise I'll change. I stayed quiet for a moment. Then I answered. I have 22 videos, I said calmly. Your emails, the financial records. The nurse saw me, my teacher saw me, my neighbor saw me, CPS saw everything. Silence. You had a month. I continued. Every time I called, you told me I was being dramatic. You threatened me. My voice didn't shake anymore. You spent all that money while I was eating half a pack of ramen a day. She tried to interrupt. I didn't stop. You didn't forget anything. You just didn't care. The words came easily now. I wasn't part of your life. I paused. I don't hate you. I just won't lie for you. Her breathing changed, and I won't talk to you again until I decide I want to. Tracy, please goodbye. I ended the call. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from release. Aunt Melissa stood in the doorway. She had heard everything. Are you okay? She asked. I nodded slowly. I think I am. That was the last time I heard her voice for years. 6 months later. The case ended. My parents took a plea deal. The evidence was too strong. Too many records. Too many witnesses. They were sentenced to probation, community service, and a permanent felony record. But that wasn't the real outcome. The judge revoked their parental rights. Permanently. Karen told me what he said. You chose a vacation over your child's safety. This court cannot return her to you. That same day, Aunt Melissa became my legal guardian. I was finally safe. My mom cried in court. Loud, uncontrollable sobs. But it didn't feel like regret. It felt like she had lost everything else. Her image. Her life. My dad said nothing. Afterward, Karen gave me a letter from my mom. I didn't open it. Not then. Not for years. Life with Aunt Melissa was different. Smaller apartment. No perfect house. No staged photos. Just a kitchen. 2 bedrooms. And a place that felt warm. This is your room, she said. It's yours. No one had ever said that to me before. We ate dinner together every night. Simple meals. But she sat with me. She asked questions. She listened. Really listened. Weeks passed. Then months. I started sleeping again. Eating normally. I didn't have to count every bite anymore. Sometimes. I still checked the fridge at night. There was always food. She remembered everything. My schedule. My school meetings. One day, I saw something on the calendar. Tracy's school meeting. 3 p.m. You remembered I asked? She smiled. Of course. Something shifted inside me. For the first time. I believed it. She wasn't going anywhere. And maybe. This life was finally real. Your choice. That was what Aunt Melissa said when she showed me my room. My choice. No one had ever said that to me before. We started eating dinner together every night. Nothing fancy. Sometimes just pasta with sauce from a jar. Sometimes grilled cheese and tomato soup. But she always sat across from me. She asked about my day. And she actually listened to the answers. One evening, she looked at me seriously. I'm not perfect. Tracy, she said, I'm going to make mistakes. I didn't say anything. I wasn't sure what she expected me to say, but I promise you 2 things. She continued. I will always be here. And I will always listen. I didn't know what to do with that promise. Part of me kept waiting for it to break. Waiting for her to get tired of me. Waiting for her to decide I was too much trouble. But she never did. 3 weeks later, I came downstairs one morning and saw something written on the kitchen calendar. In purple marker, it said, Tracy's basketball tryouts, 3 p.m. I stopped and stared at it. My mom had never written anything like that down. She never remembered dates like that. Half the time, she forgot to pick me up from school events. You remembered, I asked quietly. Aunt Melissa looked up from her coffee and smiled. Of course I did. She said, I want to be there for you. If that's okay. Something inside me shifted. Yeah, I whispered. That's okay. She smiled again, and for the first time, I let myself believe that maybe this was real, that she wasn't going to leave. It didn't happen all at once. It took a year before I fully trusted that she would stay. It took 2 years before I stopped checking the refrigerator every morning just to make sure there was food inside, but slowly, I started to feel different, stronger, safer. 6 months after everything was settled, Aunt Melissa sat me down at the kitchen table one Saturday morning. There was a folder in front of her. Tracy. There's something you need to know, she said. I looked at her. Confused. It's about your grandmother's estate. I blinked. I barely remembered my grandmother. She had passed away when I was younger. She left a college fund in your name. Aunt Melissa explained. Your parents weren't allowed to touch the main amount, but they were responsible for managing it until you turned 18. She opened the folder and turned it toward me. As part of the court process, that fund has been moved into a trust. It's now supervised by the court. I looked down at the number on the page. It was more money than I had ever imagined. This is yours, she said firmly. For your future. For college. No one can use it without court approval until you're an adult. I stared at the number, my mind racing. Then I thought about everything. The expensive hotels, the shopping, the money my parents had spent while I was counting coins. Did they use this before I asked quietly? Aunt Melissa hesitated. The main fund was protected, she said slowly, but they had access to some of the interest. She sighed. Let's just say the court looked into everything very carefully, and they won't have access to anything of yours ever again. I sat there, trying to process it all. What happened to the house, I asked. They sold it. She said, they had to. Legal fees, settlements, everything added up. She closed the folder. They moved out of state. I don't know exactly where. I nodded slowly. I didn't feel happy about it. But I didn't feel sad either. It just felt like consequences. Simple and unavoidable. Actions have consequences, even for parents, especially for parents. Thank you, I said to Aunt Melissa quietly, for protecting this, and for protecting me. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. That's what real family does, she said. By the time I turned 13, I had boundaries, clear ones, no direct contact with my parents. Everything had to go through Karen or a lawyer. No calls, no surprise visits, no accidental encounters. During the first year, my mom tried. Letters came through her attorney, requests for short phone calls. Once, she even showed up at the apartment. The security guard didn't let her in. Each time, I said no. My therapist, Dr. Harris, helped me understand why. You're not punishing them, she told me during one session. You're protecting yourself. That's different. But she's my mother, I said quietly. Am I supposed to forgive her, doctor? Harris leaned forward slightly. Forgiveness isn't something you owe anyone, she said. It's a choice. And even if you forgive someone, that doesn't mean they get to come back into your life. I thought about that for a long time. So I can forgive her, and still not see her. Yes, she said. If that's what you need. I nodded slowly. I'm not ready, I admitted. That's okay, she said gently. 7 years passed. Then one day, I received a letter. Not through a lawyer. Just a plain envelope in the mailbox. The return address was from Arizona. My mom's handwriting. I held it for a long time before opening it. I was 18 then. Packing for college. Full scholarship. A future I had built myself. My dorm room was waiting. My new life was waiting. But first, I needed to finish this. I sat on my bed, both letters in my hands, the old one from years ago, and the new one. I opened the first. Tracy. I know I was wrong. I don't know how to apologize. No one ever taught me how. My own mother left me too. And I thought that was normal. I thought children were supposed to be fine on their own. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm trying to change. I'll wait. However long it takes. I read it twice. Then I open the second letter. Tracy, I heard you got into college. I'm proud of you. Even if I have no right to be, you did this on your own. I'm still in therapy. I'm still trying. I don't know if I'll ever be the mother you deserved. But I'm trying to be better. I won't ask to see you. I just want you to know. I'm sorry. I lowered the letters slowly. Aunt Melissa stood quietly in the doorway. You okay? Aunt Melissa asked softly from the doorway. I thought about it for a moment. I don't know if I believe her. I said honestly, I don't know if she really changed. You don't have to decide right now. She replied. I nodded. I think I'm okay not knowing. At least for now. That's enough, she said gently. I folded the letters and put them back in their envelopes. I didn't write back. Maybe I would someday. Maybe I wouldn't. But for the first time, it felt like my choice. The day I left for college, I stood on campus and looked around, letting everything sink in. Aunt Melissa had already driven away, waving with tears in her eyes and a proud smile. In my mind, I traced the path that brought me here. I remembered being 11, sitting in an empty kitchen, counting $20 and wondering how I would survive. I remembered recording myself in front of an empty refrigerator, not knowing if anyone would ever see it. I remembered the first time someone asked me if I wanted to be safe. I remembered Aunt Melissa showing up, a stranger who chose to stay. And I remembered the moment I said, I won't lie for you. 7 years later, I was still here, not broken, not invisible, whole. Not because someone saved me, because I chose to save myself. I had been taught that staying quiet meant being good, that speaking up was betrayal. But I learned the truth the hard way. Silence doesn't protect you. It protects the people who hurt you. Around me, students laughed, moved boxes, started their new lives. So did I. I sent Aunt Melissa a quick message. I made it. Thank you for everything. She replied almost instantly. I'm so proud of you. I smiled. The past didn't disappear. It never would. But it didn't control me anymore. People sometimes ask if I regret what I did. I don't. I don't regret telling the truth. I don't regret the videos. I don't regret the day everything fell apart. The only thing I regret is that it took me so long to realize I deserved better. If you've ever felt invisible, like you had to shrink yourself to be accepted, I want you to hear this. Speaking up is not betrayal. Setting boundaries is not cruelty. You have the right to protect yourself. Even from the people who were supposed to protect you. My parents left me with $20 and a card that didn't work. They thought I would stay silent. They were wrong. I survived. I told the truth. And when everything caught up with them, it wasn't revenge. It was reality. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. Aunt Melissa showed up. Mr. Green showed up. My teacher and Karen showed up. The people who truly care will never ask you to suffer for them. They left me with nothing. But I walked away with something they could never take. My voice, my boundaries, and a life that finally belonged to me. If you chose to tell the truth, protect yourself. And stop covering for people who hurt you. Then write yes, because that takes real courage. If you would choose differently, like staying silent or trying to fix everything alone, write silent and share why that matters too. And if you believe there's another way, a other decision, I truly want to hear your story. Sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that finally set us free. There are moments in life when you have to choose between staying silent to be accepted or speaking the truth to truly live as yourself. I used to believe that enduring everything was the only way to keep a family together, that if I just became a little better, things would change. But the truth is, love is never built on neglect and pain. My story isn't just about suffering, it's about learning to stand up, to protect myself, and to understand that my worth does not depend on how others treat me. I learned that silence is not strength. Sometimes. It's the very thing that hurts us the most. When I finally spoke up and set boundaries, I didn't lose my family. I found myself. If you're going through something similar, please remember you are not alone. You deserve to be loved, to be heard, and to be protected. And sometimes, the person who saves you is yourself. If this story resonated with you, leave a comment to share your thoughts. Like the video, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue spreading meaningful stories together. You're not just a viewer, you are part of a community that brings value. Wishing you the courage to choose yourself and the strength to keep moving forward. See you in the next story.
Welcome to Family Confessions. Our stories go beyond entertainment, helping viewers recognize toxic behaviors, understand boundaries, and reflect on their relationships, while reinforcing self-worth and the strength to heal and move forward. Each video follows a structured workflow ensuring quality and value for our audience. Thank you for being here.